Update: when being child free gets you extra 40 hours a week of work. Hi all. Our lovely mods have advised me that best to give you an update is to create a new post. Here's a link to the original rant. Before I get into the good stuff, I need to say thank you to everyone who commended or awarded or DM'd me on my original post. I was baffled by the number of comments this morning. Y'all are amazing. I've been reading your comments throughout the day, but I couldn't respond as the post was locked per the mod post exceeded the number of comments limit. Some users ask what I do for work. I have to give a vague answer to this for privacy reasons. I work in the regulatory compliance department, and our job is to monitor and enforce internal policies and laws or regulations at all levels within the company. Almost everyone requested an update, so I really hope this lives up to the hype. The meeting took place first thing this morning with the manager, head of HR, another HR manager, 2 labor law attorneys from legal department, head of my department, legal invited him on the 5 this morning, and 13 child-free, 12 co-workers, and me. I started this meeting by explaining why we've gathered here today. Head of my department was dumbfounded. He clearly had no idea what the manager tried to pull. Legal went through with the quote-unquote rules of discussion. Wait your turn to speak and such. I was first to make my case, and approach was simple. Show proof, show policy, explain why the policy was violated and therefore can't be enforced. Boring. Yes, I know, but if that didn't work, I had other points on reserve to bring up. Side note, I really wanted to go all out and lose my filter and say what I was really thinking, but as we know, that would get me nowhere. So I presented the manager's memo and company's overtime policy, which clearly states that mandatory overtime must be 1. Mandatory for all members of the department, hourly and salaried. 2. All members must work equal number of overtime hours. And 3. Must be approved by the head of department. If any of these conditions are not met, management can't impose it and should ask for volunteers to work overtime instead. My argument was simple. Manager didn't follow the policy and purposefully targeted the child frees. Highlights of the crap show that followed. Legal asked head of my department if he approved the memo. Answer was an angry no. I could tell he was livid at the manager. In my head, I'm laughing my A off. Legal asked manager for her side of the story. Answer: I wasn't aware of this policy. I interjected with, I find that hard to believe when 3 weeks ago we did an extensive review with that policy being the main objective, and you were heavily involved with each step. Head of HR chimes in with, I can attest to that. I worked with the manager of this project. Let's be truthful, please. In my head, I'm screaming like, take that, B! Manager says, well, I didn't think policy would apply in this case. Y'all, it took all my willpower not to cuss her out. All of a sudden, her memory came back, and now she's aware of the policy. Legal stepped in with, are you saying that you, the manager responsible for enforcing policies, honestly thought that those same policies don't apply to you? Ah! Yes, head of my department stepped in with, to manager, still angry AF, you were blatantly wrong here. There's no need to try and justify it. This is obviously very summarized, but the gist is there. Round 1 is a win. Next were some of the child frees who shared emails between them and her, showing your standard crappy manager behaviors and lack of accountability. She just kept repeating, that's not why we're here today. It didn't stop them from going on though. That was very enjoyable to watch. Then one of the other child frees asked to speak, and let me tell you, this guy showed up with receipts. He spent the entire night creating an analysis, freaking pie charts and all, to illustrate how many projects were done by the 13 child frees as compared to the 19 non-child frees, how much time was put in by us versus them, how much vacation or sick time was approved for us versus them for the last year. I was shook. His analysis showed that 13 of us did close to 60% of all the work, while 19 of them did 40-ish. Don't even get me started on the rest of the stats. This guy wiped the floor with the manager. I hope he gets a raise because he's my hero. Her response: this company provides work-life balance and wants families to have time to spend with each other, so it's normal that employees with kids get to do just that. I couldn't hold back. Me: yes, you're absolutely right that the company does that. What you're lacking here is understanding that family includes other people, not just children. In case you were unaware, all of us have families too. HR interjected with, I believe we have enough information here. The child frees, myself included, were asked to leave the meeting so they can deliberate, and we were told they'll circle back with us later in the afternoon. Later comes around, we're invited to a meeting. This time it's all the same people, but no manager. Head of my department apologized that this ever happened. thanked us for doing the right thing and bringing it to their attention, threw in a few company lines about equal treatment, yada yada, and told us he will be taking over the managerial duties for the time being. Legal added that the memo is null and void and made it clear that we will not be working those insane hours. In case you're wondering, manager was offline for the rest of the day. We don't know what happened there, but who cares? We won! Edit, I'm trying to keep up with all the comments and read them all. I appreciate all of you. I find it hilariously ironic that you're in a regulatory compliance department and your manager tried to pull this. Freaking wow. I sincerely hope she was fired. And I'm glad you guys won't be doing that overtime. Also, that guy who came prepared with charts and stats is an MVP. You know, the irony didn't hit me until this morning, after the initial anger wore off. She's something else. By the way, happy cake day! Original poster, get chart person a cup of coffee for pulling in hard for you all. XD, I think he deserves it. Yes, we're gonna get him a promotion. Stats guy for the new manager. I mean, it sure sounds like you knew that you had to act, knew how to act, and know the policies well enough that maybe you should go out for it. And you were backed up by your peers who even came to the meeting with you, which isn't a small feat. Go you. Nah, don't waste his talents, just get him more money and a new title for the same job he's doing. I'm also somewhat amused that the math worked out that 40% did 60% of the work. Maybe charts and graphs homie can be the new manager. That's probably true at a lot of jobs. All it takes is a few superstars who shift the bell curve to a 60-40 split. But to see it drawn so neatly on the Childfree versus breeder line is remarkable. I'm certain that the manager has been cutting the breeders way too much slack for too long. Sure, but in this case, the 60-40 split of the work was done by an even 40-60 split of the staff, which is the root of where my amusement lies. This is the update I wanted to hear. Gosh dang, that manager is a dummy. I also cheered when you got the dude with the stats. Directors love stats. LOL, at least mine sure does. When he broke out the stats, I cheered. The legal team was probably like, "Aw, frick, those ones could sue." LOL. Absolutely, they were thinking that exactly. And probably also grateful for the opportunity to correct this BS instead of original poster and colleagues immediately taking legal action. Yep, HR knew pretty clearly crap was going down for the business the moment original poster contacted them, which is why they brought 2 lawyers and department heads. I could scream about the work-life balance comment. So child-free people don't deserve a work-life balance? We don't have a life because we use protection while freaking? Exactly. It's a work-life balance, not a work-children balance. I have a coworker who is single and childless like me. He's not child-free like me, but honestly I think he'll end up that way, not by choice. And that's besides the point. He somehow thinks I have no life outside of work because he doesn't have a life outside of work, and frequently asks me to stay longer. He can't stay late if I don't, because we're the only people that can work late, and it's a safety issue. If I say no, which is 99% of the time I do, because his incompetence in properly planning how to do his work is not my problem, then I get grilled about why. He does not find to play with video games by myself or with friends to be an acceptable answer. I love my job. It is high on my priority list and I'm thinking about my work way beyond my work hours, but I get my work done within working hours and he's just freaking ridiculous. I take off work every 2 years for a video game release. I never tell anyone at work my vacation is for video games because they would never understand. It's always generic staycation. I went gush at a coworker with the pie charts. Well done. I hope there's no retaliation or pettiness, so fingers crossed. But I'm about it. But I doubt it. I am also loving manager throwing out the "but family time" thing. Hey, I have a family. I am someone's child. Maybe my family wants to see me from time to time. Even if you think I'm a waste of air being child-free at all. She's clearly not getting it. It's also frustrating to see how often family time is seen as the only legitimate reason to dole out work-life balance. Forget it if that person is an introvert who needs to spend time alone to stay sane. Forget it if they're an athlete that enjoys training, intramural teams, yoga, etc. Forget it if they have literally any other item of enjoyment or fulfillment outside of their work life besides children, because apparently those are the only things viable for a work-life balance in some places. Work-life balance should be mandatory for everyone's well-being, not just for potential children.